Hello, bridge builders! I'm here with some exciting news. The first volume of interviews is now available on Amazon.com. The link can be found at eatlunchandboardgame.com. I promise that all proceeds from sales of this book will go right back into this podcast and channel. Whether that is new and better audio equipment for the podcast or video equipment for the YouTube channel, or even more games to review, the money will not be wasted. Click over to Amazon and get your copy of Eat Lunch and Board Game, the first course today. And thank you for supporting the show. Arwen Kathke, a fellow board game podcaster of Cardboard Time, stops by the show to answer the usual questions. Along the way, she and I also discuss our ever-growing, never-decreasing shelves of shame. And we also talk about how the castle from Beauty and the Beast had the best library, and of course how we would replace all the books with games. Arwen stated her love of Belle's dress too. We also talk of bad IP games. Arwen mentioned a hard-to-find Ninja Turtle game, which I have placed in the show notes, and which series of escape rooms in a box are better, Unlock or Exit. Check it out. Welcome back to Eat Lunch and Board Game. I'm your host, Adam Collins, and with me today is fellow podcaster of Cardboard Time, Arwen Kathke. Arwen, how you doing?
I'm fantastic, Adam. How about you?
Not too bad, not too bad. It's, one of those nights where I was trying to get the little one to sleep before I record, but she didn't want to go to bed, but now she's mom's problem.
Exactly. Fortunately, I don't have that issue right now, so I don't have to worry about the kids. My buddy Justin has to worry about his. I get those stories, so I live vicariously through him.
Well, that, vicariously is probably, you still get sleep, like we talked about earlier. You still get sleep living vicariously. I don't, because I have the kids, so, It's all right. So, you are a podcaster as well. Your podcast is Cardboard Time.
Mm-hmm.
What can you tell us about your podcast?
So I really do reviews of games that are former residents of my Shelf of Shame. So my Shelf of Shame was once at 330 games.
Wow!
Yeah. Yep. It was there. It's about a 150 or so right now. But
that's a pretty good improvement.
It is. It's been a lot of work, a lot of time with my friends and myself. Solo games are definitely my friend when it comes to that. But I really, I do that. I rediscovered my love for kind of telling stories from the industry. I have guests from all around the hobby, whether it be fellow podcasters, or people who design games, people who do artwork, people who sell games at conventions, and anybody that is from the industry, I will have them on because they always have interesting stories to tell. And then, really, the third thing is occasionally providing a friendly voice for the LGBTQ plus community and trying to bring together gamers from all backgrounds as well.
No, that's important. That's important for sure. But yeah, like you said, I like to have the different people from all different facets of the industry, whether they're authors or podcasters, designers. I've had artists. I had a fellow board gamer at lunch. I reached out to him and he came on my show just because, and he just plays board games at lunch like I do. So that was an interesting one. And then I had a woman on early in the show. She is a cross stitch designer and sells her cross stitch designs on Etsy. And I bought a couple and I'm like, you know what? I wonder if she'd be on my show. So I reached out to her and she was on. It was a good time, hilarious. You never know who you're going to come across in this industry. That's for sure.
Now, did you cross stitch before that, or was that something new to you?
No, I used to cross stitch when I was younger, and then I got out of it, and then kind of got back into it after getting married. And we'd watch TV at night, and my wife would crochet. And she's like, you should get back into cross stitching. And so I did. I cross stitched some, family portraits and stuff. And then I got kind of back into it again when the pandemic started, and went to Etsy and typed in, like, I think I typed in board game cross stitch, and
Yeah.
all these crazy ones pop up. And I'm like, buy, buy, buy. And then, go to Michael's and buy up a bunch of floss, and you're good to go.
Exactly. Yeah, my mom taught me very recently because her grandmother did it and she felt that she wanted to teach her daughter how to do it as well. So she recently taught me, and it is such a relaxing hobby. You can, like you said, do it when you're watching TV, doing just about anything.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah. One night my wife went to bed and I wasn't tired. I popped my headphones in, listened to my audiobook, and just sat there and cross stitched. Then all of a sudden I'm like, it's been 2 hours. I
Hmm.
should probably go to bed. And she asked me that, what time did you come to bed last night? I don't even know, honey. She's like, well, did you get did you get distracted? I'm like, yes.
I I had this crazy cross stitch I was doing until 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, I like to party.
So if I came to your house, what game is currently out on your table? What game are you playing right now?
So right now, I am currently playing Ten Penny Parks. Um, it
Oh.
is it is something else. I won't give away too many spoilers because I am going to be doing a review of it, but Thunderworks was kind enough to send me a review copy of it, and this game is really really solid. If you like tile placement, if you like a good spatial puzzle challenge, it's so good.
Oh, yeah, we actually saw it on Watch It Played, did a video on it a couple weeks ago, and my son and I watched the video. And we immediately went and put a notice to our game shop that when it drops, we want a copy. That looks absolutely amazing.
It is, and the playtime's not too terribly long. I mean, the people that you can really get into the game, it's got a low barrier to entry, which I always like with games, especially getting newer people into the hobby. It's kind of an approachable theme. You've got a little bit of a 3D component to it with the carousel that spins, so it's always got that attractive table presence that I always like. There's so much going on with it that I absolutely love, and I'm a roller coaster nut. So I would told Tim Vernig, who I saw at Origins and PAX Unplugged, please at least consider me for this. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I got you on this," because
Amazing.
I am an absolute amusement park nut, and it really just kind of scratches that itch for me.
No, it looked, like I said, it looked fantastic. And as we were watching it, I was like, is this game already out? And it wasn't. So I put it in for a pre order at the game shop. So,
You're gonna have a
you
great
know,
time. You're gonna
great.
love it.
I'm so excited. So, back to your shelf of shame. So, you're playing a game that's not even out yet when you have 150 on your shelf.
They Well, instead of going onto the shelf of shame, it just went onto the table, and that way it doesn't get added. So it's kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. So it plus it keeps the number steady. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So
Exactly.
you have roughly 750 games, if I remember correctly, from
Mhm.
one of your podcasts or a list somewhere. And I thought it was interesting that you have about 20% of your games not played, and
Mhm.
I have about 20% of my games are not played.
Yeah.
So I'm like, is that just like the industry standard? You just don't play 20%, 20%
Yeah.
of your games?
Yep, you just like to let them sit there and you admire them from afar
Yeah,
and you say,
yeah.
one day I will get to play you."
You sit there, you're like, I'm going to buy 5 games, but one of you is not getting played.
Yep. Yep. That's pretty
which
much it.
which one of you is not getting played?
We're
I
gonna
just
spin the wheel and
yeah, I
find
just thought it
out.
was really funny when I was like, Arwen's at about 20%, and I'm at about 20%. I wonder if it's just is that the number?
Yeah. In new industry standard that you
Yes, yes. If you have played all your games, you need to buy 20% more just to not play them.
I wonder if anybody's ever done that study, like, in earnest. Like, just what is the percentage? I think that's a great study. I'd like to see that.
So with mine, I try to keep the print and plays off of it. I buy a lot of print and plays, back a lot of games on Kickstarter at the print and play level to show my support. And but I've got a hard drive full of them, and I'm like, oh, my goodness. And so many of them just, it's like I have every intention to play it, and it's just a matter of finding the time to print it off, cut it out, laminate it if I have to, do whatever I got to do to like, do the build and then play it. But a lot of the ones I get are like roll and writes or small card games, so it's not that much work. It's just finding the time to to do all the front end work on it.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not a resident of your shelf of shame because it hasn't been printed off yet. I mean, you might have a folder of shame, but
Oh, I have a folder of shame. Don't you worry. I don't even know where it is right now. It's probably buried on the shelf. I don't know. So let's get this one out of the way. How do you pronounce Klaus Teuber's game, The Settlers of?
Catan.
Oh,
What how do you pronounce
I
it?
say Catan.
Okay, I've heard that, and that's kind of like my second
Yeah,
backup. Have
yeah.
how what are some of the like more unique pronunciations that you've heard?
It's usually only Catan or Catan.
Okay,
Then I got a buddy that said Caton just to be a pain, but
of course.
but those are about it. That's the only two. So it's always interesting. I wonder if it's like regional or because everybody in Canada says Catan,
Mhm.
and so I was like, oh, I wonder if it's like a regional thing. So
Well, it could go along with that because I grew up in Buffalo, New York, which is pretty much Canada adjacent.
yeah,
So
separated
it
by Niagara Falls.
yes, yes. If I'm ever in Canada for more than about 22 minutes, I pick up a Canadian accent like immediately. So,
Good thing I caught you, without the Canadian accent.
yes, yes. I haven't been up there in quite some time and I'd love to go back. So,
Yeah, I'd like to
but
get
you
back
caught
up
me
to
before
Toronto.
that. Ah, I miss Toronto.
Yeah, I'd like to get back up there for sure. So, do you play board games at lunch with your coworkers?
I like to. I absolutely love to board game at lunch with coworkers. We are right now where I work on a 2 days in the office schedule. So to do that, I kind of have to collaborate with everybody, and we're not really supposed to be gathering in large groups, so that makes it a big challenge. And the games that we'd usually play would be things that were small, like No Thanks, Red Seven, Sprawlopolis, games like that are very portable and easy to set up and tear down. Essentially, it's not a problem if people come walking around, but still, you don't want this gigantic game and you run into the CEO of a major, Fortune 500 company. Like, what's Arwen got in her hand? Really? You're gonna bring Space Base to lunch? Okay, I see how it is.
Hey, there's not that game plays pretty quick. You can play
It
that one in the
does.
lunch hour.
It does.
So, no thanks. I literally just played that for the first
Mm-hmm.
time like 2 weeks ago. Holy cow, what a great game.
Right?
I love it. I love it. It's awesome. I just did a podcast episode on it like 2 weeks ago. I love that game now.
That has been on so many work trips with me, and just everybody loves it. Everybody gets it. They want to play more and more. We'll sit there with a couple of beers and just play game after game after game of it. We'll spend an entire evening. And when you go to the places that I do when I travel, you kind of need a little pastime to, just pass the night away until you have to go to work the next day. We'll just leave it there.
No thanks is just it's so much fun. It's such a risk aversion game, but yet you have to take the risk sometimes. You got the 30 card. You go ahead and take the 28, praying for the 29. It doesn't come up because it's not in there, and you're like, oh
Mm-hmm.
my gosh, I just scored all these points. Or you know that your friend's gonna take the card, but you don't want to keep giving them tokens, but yet you don't want to take the card because you don't want the 17 points. But it's like it's so much fun. Oh my gosh, my group that I was playing it with, we started playing it. We took the rules out, went through it. We're like, okay, we played it once. We're like, okay, I got it. We played it again. We're like, oh, this game's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Mm-hmm.
it. And then it's funny you mentioned Red 7. I literally just played that game last week for the first time with my son. And holy cow, another game that you can play in like 5 minutes.
Yep. Yep.
Maybe 10 if you had four people, maybe. But oh my gosh. Because you only have the 7 cards.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to decide, do I spend 2 to stay in, or is there a way I can just play 1? Oh man.
It
I love it.
Beautiful small box designs really get to me. And, I'm sure that we'll get to it in a minute, but that's why I love Button Shy games. But I love the little Amigo Spiel games, like Llama. That's another one that hits for me as well. So I love those small boxes, but very big experiences.
I've got a shelf of those like right over here. Just
Mm-hmm.
if it's small, it goes on this shelf. If it's big, it goes on that shelf.
I've got little drawers for them. It's fantastic. IKEA sells them. Wonderful.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, IKEA like really helps me with my game addiction. It
Mm-hmm.
allow it helps me organize my game addiction.
I have an IKEA addiction in addition to my game addiction. So
Neither one of those are cheap, Arwen.
no, no, especially when I'm looking at another Calyx
Yeah.
5x5 and another 1x4, I think is all that I have room for in my basement. So I've either got to clear some things out that I haven't played, or I have to really stop taking review copies of games because it's filling up fast.
Or just start putting them in the kitchen.
Yeah,
This cupboard has dishes. This cupboard has games. Just be
yeah,
careful.
exactly. Just don't put the hamburgers on the board games, please. I
Yeah.
those are collectibles.
So if we were playing a game that had colors, is there a specific color that you like, your go-to color?
My go-to color, I would say, is pink. I really love pink. I would say those games are relatively few and far between. Usually that's not a color option. So when it comes to that, normally I'm kind of picking a color that doesn't mess with my color blindness issues. So that's kind of what I choose around. So if I don't have pink, it's whatever is most distinguishable to me.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, there's a big push on board game design for the
Hmm.
colorblind community. I think one of the best examples that I can think of really is Ticket to Ride. How
Hmm.
they got different cars for every color. They've got different symbols for every color. So it really helps play the game. You can tell these are the same. This symbol matches that symbol, and play. Did you pick up the pink trains for Ticket to Ride?
Of course. Of course. I mean, supporting breast cancer research and getting pink trains at the same time. How could I not? I mean,
I
that
I
was
had to get them. I was like, I
yeah.
have to have these, and so I have 3D printed Batmobiles
Ooh,
that I use with Ticket to Ride. So we played a game where my son used the Batmobiles and I used the pink trains just because we had them.
exactly. You got to use them every once in a while.
You gotta break them out.
I was just gonna say the color blindness issue, like you said, it's really been at the forefront of designers' minds lately, I believe, and it's great to see that. there's a lot of great work that's being done by people like Brian Chandler to raise awareness and really getting that subject on the forefront of designers and publishers' minds, because I do think it's important. There's a lot of people that you might leave out from the table if you don't address it. So I do. I relatively frequently, try to talk about the color vision of the games and try to relay that information because I do feel pretty strongly about it.
No, I mean it affects you personally. It's a great angle. It's a great topic for you to discuss.
Hmm.
You know, help set you apart just a little bit.
Exactly.
So, when you were playing with your coworkers, did you ever break out an hour long game? Did you have a go to 60-minute game?
So I would say not necessarily at the lunch table, but when I was traveling and I needed something to fill an hour, Space Base is really my go to. You got engine building, you got dice rolling, you got racing. I have played that game so much and it still hits the table and I'm still enamored with it, especially with the expansion. You get those little tiny dice in there and you get to
I
roll.
have not played the expansion. I've only
Oh,
played the
it's so
base game.
good. It's so good. I guess it's kind of a spoiler. I mean, the thing's been out for a few
Oh
years,
yeah.
but you get these little tiny dice in there and you wind up by the end of the game rolling like your two main dice and then 10 of these little tiny dice hoping that one out of the six sides comes up. It's beautiful because if there's one thing that I like more than rolling dice, it's rolling more dice.
How do you make rolling 5 dice better? Roll 6.
Exactly.
So, what I liked about Space Base, so I love Machi Koro,
Hmm.
and to me, they're very similar in gameplay. But what I liked about the Space Base was kind of like the racing aspect to it, and the cubes, and just kind of the extra to it, how you can replace things and stack things. And I really enjoyed Space Base. And then I went to buy it and it was out of print for a while. And
Oh,
then it came back in print and I kind of forgot to go get it. So maybe I'll make a trip to the game shop.
I think you should. I I absolutely adore that game and I have everything for it. I can't wait for the new expansion to come out. I will be getting that the day that it drops and just playing as much of it as I possibly can.
Excellent. So your local game shop loves to see you come in.
Eric will absolutely drop everything and, acknowledge me as I walk in. And I think his eyes light up a little bit because I'm a pretty good customer. So I usually wind up walking out of there with 2 or 3 or 6 games, depending on the day.
Sure, and you guaranteed one of those will not be played.
Exactly. I look at usually it's the Lacerda out of them, and I look at it and I'm like, I am not gonna play you, but you're gonna look real good on my shelf.
You're gonna look pretty. I will keep you dusted and clean, but you will never see the table.
Hmm.
So, for a 30-minute game, what are you playing?
I usually like to go to Calico for 30 minutes, especially when it comes to solo. I can bust through a game of Calico 30 minutes or less and have a really fulfilling experience. Cascadia is really kind of getting up there as well for me when it comes to that department. I know that they're very similar mechanisms. I haven't played enough Cascadia for to basically say that yes, this is going to replace Calico, but both of them are excellent.
Nice. Now I haven't played either one of them, so I've seen Calico a lot at the game shop. I'm trying to think if I've seen Cascadia or not. I know the Calico's got the cat sitting, sleeping on the front.
Hmm.
Kind of, reminds me of an old cat I used to have. So I'm like, oh
Oh
look, it's my old cat. And then
no,
yeah,
yeah,
so
Cascadia is. I know it was hard to get at one point in the recent past, so I'm wondering if that's still the same situation now.
So we already kind of mentioned micro games with Sprawlopolis and Button Shy. What is your favorite micro game?
Oh, Sprawlopolis.
Sprawlopolis. I like
Absolutely.
Sprawlopolis. I have Agropolis. I
Mhm.
backed it, and then I forgot to download it when they sent out the files.
Oh,
So I'm like, well, it's only $3 off PNP Arcade if I ever get if I
yeah.
ever need to go back and get it. Sprawlopolis it's a lot of fun. I like that one. My personal favorite though is Universal Rule. Um,
I have not heard of that.
oh man, that's Chip Beauvais,
Okay.
and it is a 4X game with 17 cards,
Wow.
and you bring your own little pile of chips or cubes or whatever you want to do to for money or whatever for your resources. But Universal Rule is my go-to for sure. And then have you played Skulls of Sedlick?
Just got it in.
Oh man, I love that game so much. Yep, there you go.
Expansion collection. What else did I get from that?
Oh
Executioners,
yeah, Executioners, the
Castle Guard,
Poets.
Poets, yeah,
Yep,
Monstrance,
yep.
everything.
Oh man, I had Dustin on the show. He actually went to the Czech Republic and was actually at the ossuary that he then based the game on.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, that was something really cool. I just Button Shy and PNP Arcade. I can't get enough of them.
It's so brilliant to see what people can do in 18 cards. And I looked at, and we came up in gaming and, you've got these big boxes and when I first started, it was the bigger the box, the better, right? You get
Oh
more
yeah,
weight in this. I'm going to buy based on, the amount of weight that I'm going to get for the money that I spend. And now I'm down to the point that it's like, what new wallet size game of 18 cards am I going to buy? Because I'm so excited about this. It's a complete 180 from where I was.
I agree. We're about the same age, so we grew up with those really bad IP games.
Mm
You bought it because like it was the Power Rangers, and even though the game itself was just awful,
hmm. Mm hmm.
and we had all the old Milton Bradley Parker Brothers games growing up, and then it wasn't until after college actually where I got into hobby gaming. How did you get into gaming?
So I actually I had a lot of those old games. So I would play Monopoly and Life, and then the IP games. I remember there was this Ninja Turtles game that I was obsessed with as a kid, and it had like these little swords that went into the tower, and you would pull the swords out, and these little like turtles with like ball bearings in them would drop through and come down one of these 5 holes. I was fascinated with it, and it was like the old mousetrap game. I mean, you didn't play it for the game itself, you just played it so that you
Oh
could
yeah,
watch the
Mousetrap's
stuff.
terrible.
Yeah, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
it's a horrible game, but you played with it over and over
Yeah,
again.
but you wanted it to get the little ball to go down, the little old man to dive off.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I
That's
didn't have that. I had a different Ninja Turtle one. Oh, something about a pizza delivery or something, and it
Yep.
had like the seesaw that you had to like teeter and hit the dice to flip into the other side of
Mm-hmm.
the. That's the one. I didn't have the one with the swords.
Oh yeah, that's one that I don't see that often. I see like the pizza delivery one referenced all the time. Like everybody remembers that and loves it, but nobody can remember this other game. So someday I'll figure it out. I'll probably spend an exorbitant amount of money to go and purchase it, and it will sit on my shelf unplayed.
It'll sit exactly. It's like I got exposed to Battle Masters. We had
Oh
like the
yeah.
big
Yep.
play mat, and you got the little armies. and I found it, and I was like, oh, I should buy this, and then I didn't because I'm like you just said, it's gonna cost me $75, and I'm never gonna play it.
Exactly.
I can't bring myself to do that. Not yet.
But when it comes to how I got into the hobby itself, I actually have a story about that. I took a work trip to Fayetteville, North Carolina. It was the 4th of July, right around there. So I took 2 weeks, and instead of taking vacation, I went down there and worked at the factory for a while. Hung out with some of my coworkers. It was a great time, except the heat index was like 118, and I'm not lying. It was 118.
That's
Uh,
gross.
it was disgusting. You basically went in, and I think we got a pizza, and we got in the car, we got the pizza, and I think the pizza was cooking on the way from the car to the apartment that we were staying in. Um, but my buddy was big into hobby board games at the time, and he was into Warhammer and all the Games Workshop stuff. He was into Blood Bowl, and he really wanted to introduce me to a game called Dungeon Quest. And there's some people that hear that game, and they go and their eyes light up, and you can see like the trauma that's going through their head of this game, because it's got like a 15% survival rate to it. Like the whole point is you're basically going to die on your way into the
Sure.
center of this dungeon. And really what I saw in that game was I could hang out with my friends, and it provided a method to interact more, so work on my social skills, make more friends, be a little bit more participatory in life itself. And when I saw the different themes and the different mechanisms, I really dove into that, and I saw
Excellent.
the crazy things that you could do with hobby games. So my collection just grew from there,
And keeps on
and
growing.
keeps on growing. Exactly.
I'd say there's nothing wrong with that, but it sounds like you're running out of room.
That's the only thing that's
Just
wrong with it. It's
just
been a
need a bigger place.
exactly.
Higher
Exactly.
ceilings. Just keep going up.
I've always fantasized about the castle from Beauty and the Beast. Like I want that dress. And then B, I want those bookshelves.
Yeah, not for books.
Yeah,
No.
exactly. I
No,
want them for
no.
games,
Yeah.
but I need that library and that dress, and I'll be all set. I'll be happy with my life. It'll be great.
We just watched that movie with the kids about a month ago. Oh man, movie's so great. Oh my
I know.
gosh.
I
One of the
love it.
best. One of the best.
Absolutely.
So a hidden gem game. I can't. This is the question I need to stop asking because this is what's starting to make up most of my shelf of shame.
Okay. We'll see if anybody else has answered this. My hidden gem game I actually wound up getting in a flea market at Dragon Con back in 2017. And there was a guy that was selling it, and it was kind of this like back alley, like meet me over by this apartment complex in downtown Atlanta where I don't know where anything is. um but he basically sold me a bunch of games, and they were in great condition, and it was fantastic. And there was this game that I had heard like a lot of buzz about in small circles. Like I never heard mainstream buzz about it, but that was Alchemist.
Alchemist.
And it's a CGE game. I believe it's from 2014, and it is a logic puzzle that uses. They do have like a reference chart if the app stops working and all that. But you use an app and you have these two ingredients that go together and they create a potion, and the potion has different effects based on what the ingredients that you're throwing into this thing are. So you're trying to logically deduce, if I put ingredient X with ingredient Y, what's my logic tree looking like that I'm going to be able to accurately predict the effects of this potion that I'm going to make. It is such a mind-blowing game. I'm always tired after it. It is so weighty, but I absolutely love it. And I never hear anybody talking about it like mainstream. I
Huh.
always hear it like backroom chatter, like, oh, I loved Alchemist, but I don't have the time to play it. So that would be my like hidden gem. If you really want something that's a brain burner, that's going to get you thinking, that's going to get you, in that logical frame of mind, um, it is something special.
Sounds awesome. Sounds exhausting though.
It is. It absolutely is. If you're looking for something a little bit lighter than that, the Search for Planet X is a good substitute. If you do like those logic puzzles, but Alchemist just, I don't know, it just does something for me that nothing else does.
That's awesome. I'll have to look into that one a little bit more. But that sounds great.
Hmm.
I like the puzzle, I like the escape rooms. I was just starting to kind of get into those right when the pandemic hit, and obviously couldn't do those. So
Yeah.
I haven't tried any escape rooms in a box. Have you tried any of those?
Oh, absolutely. Unlocks are really good. Exits are probably my favorites, but that is truly one and done. Where unlocks, you can kind of pass them between friends. So if your friends are doing them as well, you can go, you can do them, you can reset them, and then you can kind of trade in amongst yourselves. So that makes those nice. But the exit experience is, I have loved every single one of those I've done.
No, I didn't know which one. Okay, so unlocks I can do, and then reset it and give it to somebody else.
Hmm.
I have to give that a try.
Some people just can't get past like the whole I have to destroy this component in this box kind of thing. Like, I paid for this, I don't want to destroy this card. Um, which makes legacy games kind of a problem for them.
I, you know, that's not what stops me from legacy games as much as that I don't have such a consistent group that I could keep playing it and playing it and playing
Mm-hmm.
it. Like Pandemic Legacy, I like Pandemic enough. I just don't know if I need to legacy it and play it for hours and hours and hours
Play it 20 times in a row. Yeah.
to see how this sticker changed something or this card changes everything or
It
whatever.
was, I will say that I played through the first one. It is quite an experience. I don't know if it was the novelty of it being a legacy game that I liked more than just the game itself and the experience that it provided, but it kind of goes off the rails at one point, and that's all that I'll say about it.
I thought about getting Charterstone back when it came out,
Hmm.
Risk Legacy, because who doesn't love an old fashioned game of Risk? But I don't know. I've never pulled the trigger on any of them. My friends ever had it and like, hey, want to play? Like, yeah, sure. But if I don't think I'm going to be the one going out to buy those.
Yeah, yeah. Let somebody else buy them.
That can sit on their shelf of shame.
Exactly, exactly.
So when it comes to Kickstarter, you mentioned earlier that you are a backer. Are
Hmm.
you a creator? Have you ever done your own Kickstarter campaign?
So interestingly enough, one time I did try to do a Kickstarter. A friend of mine, the one that got me into the hobby to begin with, we were trying to create a graphic novel on these two characters that we had created. Um, and it didn't fund. We definitely didn't build the community up enough beforehand. So I mean, we learned the hard way
Yeah.
kind of how to run a Kickstarter, how these things work, really having to build that community up so that they're there on day one. Um, Things that we never knew. We just figured, okay, we're going to go on. We have our business plan. We know our financials were solid. Um, we had those financial numbers down, but if we just did not have nearly enough people supporting it, so it never really came to fruition. But um yeah, I'm absolutely a backer. I've got that super backer badge, and yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I shine it up every once in a
Yeah.
while. I'm like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that I
I
got one of those.
finally got there. The reason it took me so long to get there was because I was backing so many print and plays, which never were, the dollar value was never high enough. And
Mhm.
you've got to hit a certain dollar value in a certain time period. And I never had problems hitting the amount of Kickstarters. It was the dollar value that slowed me down from getting there.
I think it's kind of interesting seeing GameFound providing a new opportunity for people. I just got an email from them saying that they were going to open up to everybody. So I always like seeing competition. I like seeing what the competition is going to do to hopefully up the game. Proverbial game, I guess. On both ends.
I hope it will force Kickstarter to make some necessary changes that
Hmm.
need to happen. There's people though, like you were saying, building up that community is huge. I do a lot of reviews for Kickstarter games,
Hmm.
and I feel like sometimes I get their game and I see their Kickstarter go live, and I'm just like, Kickstarter is not just a place to print money. You've got to have the right goal in mind. And if you really need that much money to bring this game to life,
Hmm.
let's talk, because I think I think you're
Yeah.
off somewhere, man.
Yeah. Yep.
And like one of them that I just reviewed, I won't mention what game it was, but they did. It took them like 10 or 12 days to fund, and I'm like, it's because your goal is way too high for a game of, I'm not dissing the game. I'm just saying it shouldn't cost you that much to make this game. And
Right.
if you
Right.
truly need that much money, let's chat. I'll help you get the cost down, but that's the thing. And I think though with GameFound, I haven't really explored too much on there. I see stuff going to GameFound. I get all the emails, all the Facebook ads, all the good stuff, but I don't understand it. I think the way right now.
Yeah, it's definitely a different UI than what I'm used to, especially with Kickstarter. It's been interesting trying to navigate it and to see, okay, how do I do add-ins? How do I do, this and that and the other thing? And it took some getting used to. I liked it when I was done, but it definitely took some time invested in it to try to make things happen on that site.
Well, I think with Kickstarter, what has been interesting, especially lately, is the markets that it has created, right?
Mhm.
It created the whole pledge manager market. And
Mhm.
then Kickstarter was like, well, we could make a pledge manager. You could have, but you didn't. And now these other companies are way ahead of you on it.
Yep.
And you've got that, you've got all these fulfillment agencies, you've got all these companies that specialize in this and that aspect of Kickstarter. Now you're seeing Kickstarter trying to put it all in, and it's like you'd almost be better off buying a company.
I'm surprised that they haven't at this point. I
Yeah,
really am.
yeah, because their pledge manager works. Worked fine for our game fences. It worked just fine, but we didn't have any add-ons. We didn't have anything else, and so it was just the game. And
Yeah.
that was fine. Now it's like, like you just said, I was trying to, I can't remember what Kickstarter it was. I backed too many. But I was trying to do like an add-on of like a lapel pin for like $5, and it ended up sending me just the lapel pin, not the game. And
Oh,
I contacted
jeez.
the designer, and I'm like, hey, so somehow, and I remember what game it was. And anyway, she was like, oh, I see. Oh, that's weird. Yeah, sorry. And then like a week later, I got the game, but I got just the little lapel pin, and I was like, well, that's
Yeah.
it's not what I was looking for here.
That's when's the rest of this coming?
Yeah, I'm like, well, this is a cute lapel pin, totally worth
Yeah.
$5, but
Yeah.
I think I was supposed to have a game.
There's supposed to be a box here with some components in it, maybe some cards, plastic bits,
No, but this was an envelope with the little pin.
with a little pin. Here you go.
Didn't really work out for me.
Well, I'm glad that you at least got the game in the end.
Yeah, me too. It's
that's
on my shelf of shame.
Well, I'm sure that you'll get around to it when its replacement winds up on there, and then you finally get around to that game.
Do you ever buy an expansion to a game you haven't played?
Yeah. We're not going to talk about that, Adam. That was a rude question. I feel personally offended by that.
I just did that a couple weeks ago. I bought an expansion, and I'm like, I haven't even played the game.
Yep. So I got expansion content for Kemet, which I've never played. I have the C3K crossover with Cyclades, which I also haven't played. Let's see. I've got a whole bunch of...
Mine was just Galapagos.
Okay.
There was an expansion, and I'm like, oh, cool, it's $10, and I bought it. And as I was driving home, I'm like, I've never even played the game.
I've never,
but I got the expansion.
Yeah, I've at least got the expansion. Have you ever bought a game that you've already owned?
Not intentionally. Or not unintentionally.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
I have intentionally. I had a game, and then it wasn't complete.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw it somewhere else for $5, and it was incomplete, but it had the pieces that I needed for the other game. So I was able to put them together to make the whole game.
Okay.
But
okay.
I've never bought like 2 copies of, a game yet.
Like Ticket to Ride Europe.
I only have that one once.
I don't know how, why I'm referring to that one specifically, but yeah, apparently it's really cool to just buy 2 copies of Ticket to Ride Europe.
That's what I heard. I heard that's what all the cool kids are doing these days.
Exactly.
Now, I remember, though, I did buy the same print and play off of PNP Arcade because it went on sale, and I bought it, and when I downloaded it and I dragged it to my file of PNPs, it was like, hey, dummy, you already have this file.
Would you like to overwrite this? What?
And I'm like, oh, well, at least it was on sale for $1.
Yeah. I can pass this on to somebody else.
Oh, yeah, that was what I was like, well, that was stupid.
Yeah, I shouldn't have done that.
Maybe I should check that file before I buy more stuff. Oh, man. Well, Arwen, I'd like to thank you for coming on my show today. I had a great time talking with you. If anybody want to reach out to you, how can they do that?
So it's been a pleasure here as well, and thank you for having me on. If anybody does want to reach out to me, I can be found at cardboard_time on Twitter. Same and my Instagram. You can check me out on Facebook at cardboard time there. Uh, if you need to get a hold of me through email for whatever reason, it's cardboardtime@gmail.com, all one word, no underscore or anything like that. And of course, you probably want to know where the podcast actually is. Uh, anchor.fm/cardboard time, or just about anywhere that podcasts are served up, like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and most major platforms.
Excellent. And as usual, you can reach out to me on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/eatlunchandboardgame. Email me at eatlunchandboardgame@gmail.com. And find me on my website, which is eatlunchandboardgame.com. And remember, board games build bridges.
Stay in tune with all things sports around Indiana and the nation with the Crash Course Podcast. Each week, we tackle the big storylines from the world of the Colts, Pacers, and the Indiana college scene, while also keeping a pulse on the nation. We record live weekly at twitch.tv/3C Media and can be found on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever podcasts can be heard, you can catch the Crash Course Podcast.
When you're gaming, why not be comfy? Go over to supportplayer.org. Click on the cards, pieces, and dice to get some merch. These t-shirts are some of the most comfortable I have ever worn. That's supportplayer.org, and there's a link on eatlunchandboardgame.com.